Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome back to my channel. It's Mark Rasoom here. Today I want to talk about the topic of brands versus generics. Is there a difference? And we'll get a deep dive into this notion of that generics or brands, they're different, they work differently. You maybe will have patients coming in saying, no, I want the brand, they work better than the generic. And as pharmacists, we're like, no, it's not. They're exactly the same thing. So today we'll go ahead and talk about this very briefly. So what happens is kind of talking before about the process of how brands are created and thereafter generics. So when a drug company gets fully approved for a new medication by the FDA, then the company is then under a patent, which then creates them exclusive market to create that medication, the brand of that certain medication, and no one else can create that medication. However, after a certain amount of X, Y years, right, 5, 7 years of being under that patent, when the patent is over, now different pharmaceutical companies can now make that drug, right? Usually then that becomes a cheaper drug, right? And therefore the generic. You might hear, oh no, there's no generic yet, there's only brand. What does that mean? Is it mean the brand company of that pharmaceutical company is still under the patent? Now, there is this notion out there that generics are usually cheaper, they don't work the same. That is not correct, okay? Now, because the generic drugs are cheaper, there's a bad reputation that the generic is just a knockoff and doesn't work as well as a brand, right? But let's take a real world example. You want to go buy a TV, an expensive TV brand, right? A 70-inch TV brand. You know this brand. You know the quality is amazing, right? But then there's one right next to it, half the price, same screen size, but you know that the quality is not the same. Therefore, brand versus generic, right, of that TV brand makes sense. We understand that. Okay, sure. Another real life example, Pop-Tarts. There's a brand and there's a knockoff brand, right? There's a difference in price, in my opinion, definitely a difference of quality and taste, right? Definitely want the brand versus the knockoff Pop-Tarts. This is not the same for medications, right? I was leading you somewhere, but that's not where we're leading towards. We're leading at the brand and generics of drugs are the same. Now, before a company can manufacture the marketed brand drug, now that the patent is over, in the USA, it needs to submit something called the ANDA, which is abbreviated New Drug Application, to the FDA. Now, this application includes data proving that the generic product that they're going to create is both pharmaceutically equivalent and bioequivalent to that compared of the branded product. What does that mean, right? Pharmaceutical equivalence means that the generic drug contains the same drug compound, active ingredient, right, as the official branded drug, the same strength, the same route of administration, like tablet is tablet, capsule is capsule, and the same dosage forms, right? So what does bioequivalent mean? It means that the generic product must have the same exact effect to the body as the branded drug, which means that the compound has the same actions in the body, giving you that same pharmaceutical therapy compared to that of the brand in about the same time of action. Okay, you should know, just because the brand and the generic have identical drug molecules, they are bioequivalent, they are pharmaceutically equivalent, it does not mean they are the same in every way. Wait, Mark, you just said they're exactly the same. Why are you saying now there might be different? Because when you take a capsule or a tablet, right, the drug is not, the active ingredient is not the full size of that tablet. There's other things in there called excipients that make up the tablet as a whole. Okay, why? Because the way, for example, mechanisms are maybe released in the body, capsules, like delayed over time, or medications that are um, disintegrate on your tongue. All these things are different mechanisms of the tablet. It has nothing to do with the actual active ingredient that causes that therapeutic effect to the body. Okay. So, what are excipients, right? They're the inactive ingredients in a drug product, the stuff that makes up the drug that's not active. For example, tablets are sometimes made out of lactulose, starch, microcrystalline, cellulose, like physically to make the tablet, okay, or the capsule or whatever the medication is. For example, other excipients might be, as mentioned before, like ODT, right? Oral disintegrate tablets. You put it on your tongue, it disintegrates. Okay, that is made possible because of these inactive excipients ingredients in the tablet. For example, providing flavoring. Children Tylenol comes in many flavors, right? That's the inactive ingredients, but all the Tylenols are the same, right? Depending on the strength you take, but when it comes to the flavoring, it does not matter. It's an inactive ingredient. For example, some medications and tablets have different colors, right? For example, a thyroid medication called Synthroid comes in different colors depending on their strengths for patient adherence, right? Also for pharmacists to be like, oh no, that looks different than this. Did you get a new prescription? So on and so forth, right? Now, sometimes you might hear out there like, oh, I cannot take the generic, I have to take the brand. Because, there always has to be a because, okay? Because I'm allergic to an inactive ingredient in that generic tablet. In that case, yes. Then you obviously would not give someone who's allergic to a different inactive excipient that medication, right? For example, if they're lactose intolerant or have other GI problems, right, that are noted in their diagnoses, then they will get different brand, or different generics of that same medication might actually have different excipients from different pharmaceutical companies. And sometimes as pharmacists, we will get calls or about what are the excipients in it, the inactive ingredients, and then at that point we can look at the package insert of the medications and see what else is in there that's inactive that the patient might be allergic to. Okay. Now, regardless of how they make the tablet or the capsule, the color, right, or the excipients used, they have to still provide the FDA that the active ingredients is the same compared to the of the brand. That is the most important thing to the FDA, is that it's going to have the same pharmaceutical effect to the body, despite what ingredients they use inside to form that dosage form of the generic medication. Okay. Pharmacists, we spend 4 years, right, even through residency, even more, learning about medications and excipients, reading articles and doing research and going through extensive exams to learn about medications, okay, and how they work. What are the side effects? How do we monitor these medications? What medications are best used for this certain diagnosis, right? That's why, as an inpatient pharmacist, we get calls all the time saying, for example, from physicians, what medication do you recommend for this patient? We go through the patient's diagnosis, go through their labs, their renal function, liver function, other comorbidities that might have different effects given that medication, or even drug-drug interactions as well. They call us because they trust us and know that we are experts when it comes to medications. Now, the other side of that is, for example, physicians might hear first accounts of their patients saying, oh no, doctor, this brand, I have to have this brand because it works better than the generic. Well, in that case, the doctor is going to be like, oh, well, okay, then we'll prescribe you the brand, right? Because the patient says that. Now, the next patient that comes in who needs a new medication, doctor will be like, oh, well, I'm going to prescribe you the brand because I heard that the generic is not as effective. And this is where pharmacists need to come in and educate not only the physicians, but also the patients, our family members, our friends, that there's no pharmaceutical difference between brand or generics. And if there was, then they'll not be approved by the FDA, and therefore they'll be a completely different drug. It will not be the same drug medication that would have the same effect to the body. Now, the problem is brands cost so much more, right? And a lot of insurances do not cover brand medications as long as there are generic medications on the market. So this can cause and has caused patients to be upset and angry and end up saying, we only want the brand, we'll pay it for out of pocket cash. Super expensive. The other scenario is, no, it's too expensive, we want the brand, we won't even pick up the medication. And at that point, now there's patient harm, right? Because now they don't want the medication. They're not going to have it. There's no adherence. And therefore, they're not be taking the medication that will make them feel better, or, for example, antibiotics, or whatever, to heal them, right? To make them feel better, or to remove a certain disease, or to withhold a disease from even progressing to being worse. Okay, this is a huge problem in healthcare right now. In the pharmaceutical world, at least, with patients who come in saying that they want brand versus generic. However, even as pharmacists, if we cannot convince them that the brand and generic are the same, patients always come first. Patients' health, the community's health comes first. We dispense whatever is needed, of course, but we need to educate, okay? Physicians, family, friends, patients, our customers, wherever setting we are working in, whether we are pharmacists or not, by reading this articles out there about brand and generics, or even listening to this video of this random guy talking to you on YouTube right now, we need to educate so that the next time patients can not only save money, but they have a better understanding of medications of brand and generics. Now, I hope you guys all share this video with family and friends to increase medication adherence and to increase everyone's knowledge of different medications and what's the difference between brand and generics. If you have any questions, please comment below. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Or if you have any other topics, whether you are a pharmacy student, a pharmacist, or a pre-pharm student, or even just a random person, patient, or you're taking medications or family member is, ask your questions below. I'll go ahead and answer them for you. Awesome. And as always, guys, stay safe out there and take care.